Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really zeroing in on the crypto market, specifically what's going on with Ethereum. Your sources are flagging some pretty big shifts price-wise and with investor behavior.
That's right. The data shows ETH around, what, $598? It had a nice little 7-8% jump just recently.
Yeah, in the last 24 hours. But if you zoom out a bit.
Exactly. It's been quite the roller coaster, down about 31% over the past month, and still, a long way off its all-time high, about 66% down.
Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, Bitcoin seems, well, steadier, trading near $81,800.
Yeah, relatively stronger. And that difference is really showing up in the ETH-HBTC ratio. It's actually hit a 5-year low.
Okay, a 5-year low. That definitely catches the eye. So let's try and unpack this. What's the main thing we need to focus on here?
I think the core issue is getting behind why we're seeing these moves. We really need to look at the selling from these big, long-term Ethereum holders as the so-called whales.
Right, the whales.
And also why Ethereum seems to be lagging behind Bitcoin right now.
Okay, let's start with that whale exodus, as you put it. What's the data actually showing us about these big players selling off their ETH?
Well, what's really interesting is not just the amount, but who is selling. We saw one example, a whale selling 10,000 ETH.
Okay.
And they'd been holding that since 2022. So think about that timing. They held through a lot, but sold now, actually missing out on potentially huge gains, like $27.6 million if they'd sold at the peak.
Wow, yeah. Holding since 2022 and selling now. That feels like a statement. And it wasn't just an isolated case, was it?
No, not at all. Apparently over just a 48-hour window, something like 500,000 ETH were sold off by these large long-term holders.
500,000 ETH.
Yeah. That's significant selling pressure, especially coming from investors who usually, ride out the waves.
So this isn't just your typical market jitters then, people taking profits or cutting losses quickly.
The analysis suggests it could be something deeper. When you see these long-term players, folks who've seen downturns before and held on, start selling now, even though they missed the top, it might signal maybe the loss of faith or concerns about something specific, like maybe protocol upgrades or regulatory stuff targeting Ethereum specifically.
Or maybe just seeing better opportunities elsewhere.
Possibly. Or maybe even stagnation compared to newer, faster platforms that are mentioned in your sources. It suggests they're fundamentally rethinking Ethereum's long-term value proposition.
Okay, that definitely adds a layer of intrigue. Let's pivot then to the other point. Ethereum's underperformance relative to Bitcoin. That 5-year low in the ratio really stands out. What's driving that trend?
Well, it connects back to what we were just saying about those large holders. If they're losing confidence, it makes sense that institutional sentiment might be shifting too.
I see.
Think of that ratio, the ETH-BTC ratio, as like a direct strength comparison. If it's falling, it means Bitcoin's value is growing faster or holding up better than Ethereum's. And the sources link this underperformance to a few things. Maybe weaker activity in ETH derivatives markets, actual institutional money flowing out of Ethereum products.
Outflows, okay.
And, as you mentioned, just increased competition from other blockchains sucking up capital and attention.
So it's a combination of factors potentially making Ethereum look less attractive to those bigger players right now compared to Bitcoin or other alternatives.
Precisely. And the data suggests this isn't just, a quick dip. It seems more like a fundamental reassessment. Institutional capital appears to be actively moving away, at least for now.
And the fact that even when the broader market tries to recover, Ethereum isn't keeping pace with Bitcoin, that reinforces the point, right?
Absolutely. It makes it harder to dismiss as just short-term volatility. It really hints at a more sustained shift in how institutions view the relative strengths and weaknesses.
Right. Building on that, if these big holders are potentially losing faith, you can see how that might ripple into these broader market dynamics, like this ratio hitting a 5-year low.
Exactly. The two seem quite connected.
Okay, so for everyone tuning in, let's sort of crystallize this. We see Ethereum got a recent price bump, which is, good on the surface.
Sure. A short-term positive.
But looking underneath, there's this potentially concerning activity from major long-term holders selling off, and Ethereum is noticeably struggling against Bitcoin.
Yeah, this deep dive really highlights that. While you might see those green daily candles, the underlying analysis points to some potential, let's call them structural headwinds or concerns within the Ethereum ecosystem that are definitely worth watching closely.
It's quite a complex picture. You've got these investors who weren't shaken out easily before, choosing to exit now. And at the same time, institutional money seems to favor Bitcoin. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What exactly is driving this change in thinking for the whales and institutions? And thinking longer term, what could the consequences be for Ethereum's place in the whole crypto landscape?
Lots to consider there.
Definitely something to mull over. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.